be talking about how people about teams and in the professional scene and how it's like one gigantic mess and like things don't make sense and it's just like everyone's looking for the solution pretty much and we're slowly approaching what the solution actually is. Um, so let's just start off with the basics here. Um, your support staff needs to be good. You need motivated players, and you need an atmosphere that is, well, incredibly strict. It promotes growth, and the players don't feel like they're being suffocated in front of a computer 24/7. Or they can be suffocated in front of a computer 24/7 because it's like what the Koreans do. But that's a completely different culture, and I don't want to like it may be the correct culture, don't get me wrong, but the people in China boot camp like 24/7, and that region is a complete and total mess. So I don't want to attribute it to the simply the grind all day. This is your job. This is the work ethic you're supposed to have mentality, right? So I don't want to attribute it to that because it more than likely isn't the case. Um, what I do want to attribute it to is in North America especially. What you seem to find is that there's literally zero loyalty. Um, and the people that are loyal because the paycheck is gigantic. And this is a gigantic problem at the end of the day when you really think about it. Um, there was a controversy a little while ago. The coach from Samsung, I believe it was, yeah, Samsung, um, had said in an interview, I immediately denied any players that were looking at money, and Reddit went up in arms about this, and I kind of just like stood back. I was like, "You guys have no idea like what that actually means, do you?" It's not that like they're being greedy about money and stuff like that. It's the fact that like what's your intrinsic motivation to get good at the game? If it's money, you're simply going to have the organization should have no weight in you because you're going to jump ship as soon as like you're recognized for a better paycheck. Like, that's what's going to happen. What they want to find is a player that is motivated to just be the best, to like reach this next level of play and excuse me, move from there. And the thirst and the hunger to actually win rather than be paid is the two very different things. So, I didn't understand like why everyone was up in arms about it. Yes, yes, being paid to play League of Legends is very important. Not earning a slave wage is very important. I'm not denying that. But the point is, you need to understand what intrinsic motivation you have. And if it's to be paid, you're not going to see your full potential. If it's to be the best, to reach your full potential, to attempt to do things like to attempt to be be at Worlds, well, then you can move forward. A very good example of a player that is not motivated by money, but is instead motivated by the desire and the hunger to be the best is Soaz from Origin, formerly Fnatic. Um, he's a player that really just puts his heart and soul into the game. Really tries his hard. He's not exactly like the best player, obviously, but he really has this drive and this hunger to give it his all every single game, whether it be feeding, whether it be carrying the game. His mentality might need a little bit of work, and it may very well be far gone at this point because he's been so long in the scene. But my point here is that like that's the type of player you want. You want a Soaz. You want a what's his? You want an Easy Hoon. These are players that simply wanted to be the best and were willing to forego things for it. Faker. These are the type of players that you look for, and they're very rare. And don't get me wrong, they're very rare, and that's why scouting. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna move into scouting is so important. What like So when people say that the talent pool in NA just doesn't exist, it's because like when you look at like Master and Challenger, you're going to find like three Smurfs of this pro player, three Smurfs of that pro player, three Smurfs of that pro player, three Smurfs of that former pro player. And so, like, whatever, like, these players are clearly the best, and they just, like, due to the way that the league system is designed, you have a lot of downtime if you are a counter and challenger, so you're better off smurfing and, using smurfs to get into that area, right? So, what ends up happening is, all those smurfs get up there, and then all of a sudden you're playing on two smurfs and waiting for your third one to decay out of challenger into master, and all that wonderful nonsense. So what you actually need is like what actually needs to happen rather than like what people are complaining about. You need to look in like Diamond One, Diamond Two, even at this point, and just see like who's really making the impact, who's really like carrying the game. So, like what on their climb to back to Challenger, who really stood out in that Diamond One, Diamond Two area? Because games can be decided by ex pro player, or they can be decided by this one random guy. Let me see. Moon was a very good example. Moon was Diamond One last season, I believe, and never actually hit Master. Don't quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure on that one. But my point is that, like, there are plenty of situations where you're going to find yourself in like just like people in scouting. You're going to find that the top tier is already people that are already established, so there's no point in trying to get there. But if you just like look a little bit further down, you'll find the people. Now, this is vastly different from Korea and China that have the China Ionia that have people fighting for master slots 24/7. We just don't have that kind of mentality in NA, unfortunately, and it's why we keep falling off. And I'm going to keep talking about mentality in NA because I honestly and wholly believe it's complete and total garbage. I think one tricks dominate the ladder, and people hold other people hostage, and that happens in EU too. Like, okay, I guess the same thing happens in Korea and China, but how do you deal with it? Pretty much, like, what's the big way to deal with it? Well, in Korea, you're actually held accountable for your actions. People actually know each other. In are in like walking distance. Organizations are established and always looking for new players. You're always being watched if you're in like a master challenger game by someone. Um, so accountability is a big factor when it comes to uh, like keeping down the trolls in like the high diamond area. And I'm not saying it works completely. I'm saying that like there's greater weight if you want to become a professional player. And then you have the flip side of EU. Where it's like toxic, 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 unbanned, ban, blah blah blah, and all the wonderful like rage memes come from there. The latest one is like BG. Good luck next. And you're still spawning like relatively good players from there. For Vivian's a very good example of a good player that like no one expected at all. And at this point, he's like eclipsed Froggen, who was considered bar none the best mid laner of Europe for every season up till now. And this comes from Fnatic's excellent support staff, the best in the West, bar none, not even close. And it stems from there's no nepotism, there's no friends, there's nothing in that area that like influences them. They are working purely and solely off what they believe is correct and what their experience has taught them. I'm not trying to name names about like other organizations, obviously, but there's a reason that Fnatic is doing so well. And older organizations simply have not been able to replicate their success, even with equally, if not greater, talented players. That's a pretty bold claim, I know, but I'm willing to make it in this situation. Um, so yeah, so there's no solution to like looking at the player base. You just need to figure out like how to tackle it, and if you're if and adjust from there. Um, and imports are like one of the biggest like hot button issues right now, and I think Ryan handled it as best as they possibly could. You need to allow people to come in and out, otherwise you have what happens in StarCraft essentially. The Koreans are just like, well, I mean, I guess like the Koreans just like dominate everywhere, and now we're seeing that like if you like the Koreans are still going to dominate, but at least there's like an even spread, and it's like, interesting for the player to watch. I mean, I know several hundred people that would not find watching all Koreans in a League of Legends top eight to be very thrilling because there are no region or policy or like border switching ideas. No one's trying to get into the LC like into Worlds via like CIS or Brazil. As teams, I'm not saying individual players. I'm saying as teams. Like Samsung Red was supposed to happen uh, when they were supposed to come over to Europe, but then Riot was like, yeah, you can only bring two over, and you have to work with all the Europeans. And those people need 2 years, and then they'll mature, and then you can bring over two more, and then 2 years, blah blah blah. You get the idea. So you don't see that. Like, that's good. In StarCraft, we learn very quickly that was a terrible idea to just allow anyone to move anywhere. And so allowing two players is completely fair. Like you bring over a duo or something like that. Whenever Huni comes to mind. Let's see, who else can I think of? Bring over a nice duo. Um, TNT TCT from LPL. TCT was formerly more of Team LMQ that qualified in North America for a split. Eventually became Team Impulse, but all the Chinese players left. Um, so that's another thing. Bringing over two players and just like working it out from there. Um, let's see what happens with Spirit and Gamsu for Fnatic. I have a lot of high hopes and expectation for them. If Spirit really wants to put his money where his mouth is, he's going to do it. Um, I'm digressing here. So I was talking about the region policies and how it affects creating a team. So you have all these ridiculous factors like can I bring an import? Should I bring an import? What's the talent like in North America? What's my support staff look like? Do I even have a support staff? Do I need to bring in someone to help me figure this stuff out? And what I've seen at this point is that in North America especially, no one's willing to commit their time and energy to a goal over 1 year. Um, this has varying effects. Where you can go all the way back to like Evil Geniuses EU. We can go back to let's see, what's a team that literally stuck together that they can Dignitas North America, a very good example. That we're talking Cutie by Scar days. These teams never really saw their full. Oh, I guess CLG saw their full potential, but I think that's because that was through an external factor of of the original Bjergsen effect. Snoopy was literally Froggen's uh, third summoner, um, and Froggen was simply able to carry the game through several matches. And then eventually people caught on to like if you do something multi threats and like make Snoopy's life hell, that means Froggen's gonna be able to do anything and blah blah blah. Same thing happened to Centaur and Bjergsen last season. Um, so that explains CLGEU. So my point here was, I'm digressing a lot today. I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm like my thought process is completely and totally shot. I feel completely shitty. I've didn't get enough sleep probably, and I feel sick. But anyways, so the merit in having a team together for a long time is far greater than people give credit for, and you're looking at, and it just like having a core, it's like having a baseline. A very good example of just having a core setup for a team would be Ever. I forget the names off the top of my head, but my point is that like things like this don't happen overnight. As much as people want to believe they will, and as lucky as a certain organization with certain bad players and certain yeah um and certain god awful support staff wants you to believe, they got insanely lucky. They got insanely lucky, absurdly lucky that something finally snapped, and then they threw it all away. So I think the good core, the good baseline was like Afro. I'm not saying I'm not including anyone else in that. I'm including Afro and Afro alone. I feel like if you want to build a team around anyone, Afro is uh, I would say the yellow star of North America, and the fact that he's willing and able to just be a rock and be stable enough to build around. And that's a big thing when you're looking to build around someone. How stable are they? I don't believe Doublelift is stable in any aspect, shape, or form. He's inconsistent in literally everything, and he needed several years and to go through coaches left and right and just be like, nope, you have no idea what you're talking about. I lost all respect for you. Link talked about it in his thing, and he basically said that basically it's like this isn't worth the time or the energy. Like, okay, sure, you can get like one split out of this kid. Maybe he'll actually do something, but like after that, it's just like, okay, you're gonna tilt again. You're not gonna do what we say because we have like 2 losses in like a week, and we need to fix it. Oh no, the horror. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass here. I just feel like, I was wrong about this with Reckless, to be completely honest. So maybe I just don't have the full picture. But I just feel like if you want something, like a championship, if you want to prove that you're like the best or whatever, and you consistently make these stupid mistakes, and you simply refuse to listen to other people just because you have like some form of star power, some form of like like personality that people know. It's just really stupid. It's like absurdly stupid and obnoxious. And you're not the type of person that needs to be built around someone like Abramu, who is like very quiet, very humble, very lighthearted, willing to take punches sort of person. Bjergsen's another good example. He always just wants to improve. And so, you look at people like that are like actually worth building around, and you see what happens. Like, okay, like there was a misstep with TSM last season, but it was a very minor misstep, and they're going. I want to say that Bjergsen will improve from it, but I'm not entirely sure. Like TSM might have just made another mistake again. I'm gonna hold out my opinion on that one. But I think that like if you give CLG some time to improve and figure out what they want to do with their split, they're going to make a huge boon. And this is over the course of it, over one split. That maybe it'll be a little bit more, or if they're able to secure 6, they don't need to worry about it until until summer, and from there it just like you can fix your problems. And so my point was that the value of having a team for a long enough period so you can actually develop them is completely undervalued. I'm talking about CLG here. I'm talking about Cloud9. I'm talking about Ever. I'm talking about Samsung, which was formerly MVP. A lot of people forget that this was literally years that the MVP cultivated these players. And there are plenty of stories that go around about like what happened. LS went over it very well because he used to live with them, and it was they literally sat around for years being middle tier, and then eventually everything clicked. They figured out all the right roster changes. They figured out who worked with who, and became the 2 best teams in Korea, better than SK Telecom. And this was for an entire year. and then the whole Chinese thing happened. But my point is, it seems I'm not saying like 100%. It seems like having a roster that has been together for a long time far exceeds any potential talent if you're willing to if those five players are willing to put in the hours. And I'm not saying that other teams don't put in the hours. What I'm saying is you found this baseline synergy to start with. You bring in support stuff that is competent, and there you have this. You build up this synergy that already existed, and you swap in and out as it is. That's why a two-team system is far produces anything far better than a one-team, a one organization system will ever produce. We will probably never see something like Samsung White and Samsung Blue ever again unless Riot changes things in Korea. I'm a big proponent of the two-party system. Because if okay, I understand the barrier to entry becomes ridiculously high, and you have to be in an organization. But the point is, if you actually play your ass off in Challenger, you're going to get noticed by these organizations. They're not going to waste your damn time, and you might be developed immediately. You might be developed later. That's a good example of a player that was like. I mean, like I can't even think. Like, unfortunately, I'm not a big follower of Korea Challenger because it leaves a lot to be desired, to say the least. Um, yeah, so this is what you need to be doing. You need to be willing to put in all the resources, sit around. This is my opinion, by the way. That and like how to build a team. And what do I know? I barely have any experience. I only barely made LCS like once, and my other stint on the team was me pretty much doing nothing the entire time, and me being an idiot. But anyways, my point here is that, you watch all these things and you develop like in a reasonably intelligent opinion of them. Hopefully, if I sound like a fucking retard, I sound like a fucking retard. But I'd rather put it out there than never say anything. So I think that like you look for a baseline player group of players that is willing to work their hardest. And then you work from there with I don't want to say unlimited resources. You need to have a solid capital and understand that this investment may never pay off. It may never pay off. It may never be actually mature, and you need to work at it and have the people that are willing to work at it, understanding the consequences, but are still willing to give it their all. It can't be about money. It absolutely cannot be about money. Otherwise, you're going to see what happens is as soon as like one player gets noticed and you hire them and you give them like a really nice salary, and as soon as someone's willing to pay more, see ya. And you just need to make sure that they're in it for the long haul. They want the win. They want to be the best in North America. They want to be the best in the world. That's what they want. They don't want to care. They don't care about the salary. And from there, you move forward. And I don't want to say like it never. This plan is this plan is fail proof. Look at Fnatic. Fnatic just like completely got torn apart because of other issues, that the coach didn't agree with the players, and from there, see ya. So yeah, so that's my opinion. I think people need to value experience more. People need to value time more. And I get it. You want to make money, but league is not the place to make money at the end of the day. It simply is not the place to make money if you're looking short term. You're looking at least a year investment, maybe more than likely more. And just because a couple of organizations got really lucky doesn't mean you can. All right, guys. I'm gonna lay down for a bit. I'll probably be back around 3 or 4 to start streaming.